1,966. About 30 kilometers northwest of Saigon, the United States Army built one of its largest bases in South Vietnam, Chu Chi Base Camp, a fortress in every sense of the word. Thousands of American soldiers, helicopters constantly taking off and landing, tanks, artillery, multiple layers of barbed wire, watchtowers, floodlights burning through the night. By every modern military standard of the time, this place was nearly impossible to penetrate. And yet, there was a problem no one could see. Every night, it repeated, darkness fell. No unusual signs, no warnings, no approaching figures. And then, an explosion right inside the base. Gunfire followed. Chaos. Soldiers rushed toward the sound. Lights snapped on. Orders were shouted. But by the time they arrived, it was over. No enemy. No signs of retreat. No bodies. Only dead American soldiers and silence. The next morning, the same report appeared on the commander's desk. Attack during the night. Enemy withdrew. No point of entry identified. Day after day. Week after week. For months, the U.S. Army responded the way it understood war. They swept the area. They patrolled. They deployed reconnaissance helicopters. They used artillery to clear the surrounding jungle, but they found nothing. No camps. No supply lines. No trace of a force capable of carrying out these attacks. It was as if they were fighting ghosts. Then one day, a patrol found something just outside the perimeter wire. A small hole. So small it could be missed if you weren't looking closely. Covered with dry leaves. Perfectly camouflaged. Almost invisible. An engineer knelt down. Brushed the cover aside. Shined his flashlight inside. The beam went down and disappeared. The tunnel dropped into the earth, turned, and swallowed the light. He stood up, looked at his superior, and said a sentence that would change how they saw the entire war. Sir, I think we just found the problem, but what they didn't know yet was that this problem wasn't a tunnel. It was a world. Beneath the base, beneath the barracks, beneath the mess hall, beneath every step they took, there were hundreds of kilometers of tunnels. Not newly built, not randomly created. They had been there long before the Americans arrived. The Chu Chi tunnel system didn't begin as a military project. It began in the 1940s, during the resistance against the French, when bombs fell on villages and people had nowhere to hide. No concrete shelters, no technology, no alternatives. So they started digging. At first, simple hiding holes. But then, holes connected to holes. Passages connected to passages. Villages connected to villages. Over time, it grew. Slowly, silently, relentlessly. And the most important factor of all was the soil. The ground in Chu Chi was unlike most places. Red laterite clay, hard as concrete when dry, resistant to collapse, resistant to water, able to withstand nearby explosions without crumbling. In other words, the earth itself was the perfect building material. There were no machines, no advanced tools, only short-handled hoes, small shovels, wicker baskets, and human hands. They dug at night, To avoid detection, the excavated soil wasn't piled up because aerial reconnaissance would spot it. Instead, it was carried away, spread thin across fields, mixed into natural terrain, and completely erased from view above. Every entrance was camouflaged. Wooden lids, covered with dirt, leaves, grass. Some were hidden inside termite mounds. Some were placed beneath ponds. You had to dive underwater to find them. And the size? Only about 60 to 80 centimeters wide. Just enough for a small Vietnamese person to squeeze through. And far too small for a fully equipped American soldier. This wasn't an accident. This was design. By the early 1960s, when US forces began arriving in large numbers, the core of the tunnel system had already existed for nearly 20 years, and the people on the other side understood something very clearly. If they fought above ground, they would lose. The United States had air power, artillery, armored vehicles, overwhelming firepower, control of the skies. They had none of that. So they made a decision, not to fight where the enemy was strongest, but to fight where the enemy couldn't see. They went underground. They expanded the tunnels, faster, deeper, more complex. This was no longer just a tunnel network. It became a complete system. 3 levels. The first level, about 3 meters underground, deep enough to avoid standard fire, shallow enough for quick access. The second level, around 6 meters, safer during heavier bombardment. The third level, 8 to 10 meters down, designed to survive even the largest conventional bombs. The levels were connected by vertical shafts, with sealed doors between sections. If the upper level flooded, seal it. Move down. If gas was introduced, block it. Wait it out. This system wasn't just defensive. It was alive. It reacted, adapted, learned, and most importantly, it existed directly beneath the enemy. While American soldiers patrolled at night, they had no idea that just a few meters below, someone was moving, watching, waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, they appeared, attacked, and vanished without a trace. Not because they didn't exist, but because they weren't on the surface. And that was only the beginning.